other product we'll talk about is our Nutriplant AG. It is a foliar micronutrient and NPK product. Okay, and so of course it's applied to the leaf. That's why it's a foliar, but it contains several nutrients. Now it does have 6,4,3 in it, which is NPK, but it's a foliar application, so it's very light. It's not like putting it in the soil, but it also metabolizes the plant, greens it up a little bit, which is nice, but that's not our goal. That's not what we're trying to accomplish right there, because you're building your system with NPK feeding or macronutrient feeding of plants. You typically are trying to build your system. You're trying to build the plant strong enough, big enough to handle what it produces. That's all you really need it to do. If you over macro your plant, it continues to grow, but it will rob from producing its what it produces, its crop, its fruit. So there's a balance there. If you want to raise good tomatoes, you can raise great big tomatoes with hardly any tomato plants. You overgrew your system with too much macro. There's a certain amount of macro, and a lot of times less is better than more, obviously. But we're going to try and do this process. But this is a unique combination of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, your NPK, and sulfur, and chelated complex micronutrients, boron, copper, cobalt, iron, magnesium, molybdenum, zinc, proteins, peptides, amino acids, organic acids, and carbohydrates. Very unique, and very unique in the way it's chelated. Okay? That unique blend of micros stimulates the plant chemicals, plant metabolism with a greater uptake of nutrients. In fact, because it stimulates the root systems to grow, when you put it on or spray it on, you can see the difference in the uptake because you've stimulated the root systems to get larger, go deeper, reach into that nutrient pool that you haven't been into yet, to give that plant right at production a boost, a kick. Right? And you can see the difference. The light green is without it. The dark green is with the AG sprayed on. Okay. How do we use AG? It's sprayed on. It can be sprayed on multiple applications. Soybeans, pod set will give you the best kick. Wheat, green up in the spring, has given us the best kick. Corn, 6 to 8 leaf stage, or better yet, seed set pollination. But you're talking about a tall plant to get sprayed on at that point. Alfalfa, we spray it on after every cutting when it canopies, 5 to 6 leaf stage. Melons, 3 times. Leaf out, fruit set, fruit color change. Tomatoes, 3 times at pre-bloom, fruit set, color change. Most of those are 16-ounce application. That runs about $10 an acre to put on. Okay? But foliars have exploded in the marketplace. Most of you have heard about them. Most of them, you'll go down to the local fertilizer company, and they're going to have 4 or 5 different foliars they're going to talk to you about. Most of them are nitrogen-based. And they're just a nitrogen kick. That's what they're doing. They're not designed for stress relief. They're just designed for system growth. Because you look out in the field, you see your plants nice and green, plush. You're thinking, well, I'm getting what I need. That's not always what you need at the right time. Okay? You can see this is a timing issue. Some of the data that we have, because most of the foliar products out there today have not been tested and not have a lot of test data because they've been so fast. They've come into the market so fast. You go back 5 to 7 years, and there was just very few foliars out there that were available for particularly micronutrients or any type of NPK. They have just exploded because here's what's happened. Our industry is saying, hey, I'm renting the ground. Over 50, and you guys know this, over 50% of the ground in Missouri is rented ground. Iowa, over 60% is rented ground. So when a guy's renting the ground, he doesn't want to invest in the soil. He wants to invest in the plant. And if I can put it in the plant, I know I'm going to get it back. If I invest in the soil, next year, that guy might get it. So I'm really pushed to feed that plant and do it in the right time. And we're also seeing multiple spray applications today that we didn't see 5 to 10 years ago. But the AG applied on corn produced an average yield of a 7% yield increase over 3 years of testing. So that's significant, certainly very good. Soybeans, remember I said that you could do it at pre-bloom, but produce a 6% yield increase, but we showed at pod set a 20% yield increase. Hitting it right there at that pod set and watching, you can literally sometimes see those joints be added on and those pods come up that's added on after they've been sprayed. It's a real good kickstart right there at critical growth. Their alfalfa, 3.8 units of the relative feed value increase, about 0.6 tons acre increase on a 2-year total. Drought stress, reduced drought damage to leaves by about 55% in tomatoes. And also in tomatoes, reduced damage caused by freeze. These applications was treated and not treated, and they were exposed to 23 degrees for 2 hours. Basically a light freeze, and one survived and one didn't. So when we're looking at coming up in the spring, having our plants protected, maybe that's something we want to do. But also, what about it if it gets into high temperatures, which is a lot of times more common that we have high temperature stress. These tomato plants were exposed to 116 degrees for 2 hours, and look at the leaf damage versus what was not treated. So, we're talking about in that June, July, and August range there. And so what do? We try and get that product on before that stress hits. But in our pastures, we're doing an application of APSA, but we're also doing an application of AG, 16 ounces around the first part of May, to try and stress relief those pastures and help them make it through June and July and August, so that you have grass. And that actually, these pastures, the pictures you see here, is in 2012. What happened in 2012 to pastures? They got obliterated. We had a massive drought. We lost a lot of good pasture, and these pastures maintained all the way through the end of August. So significant difference. Spotted wilt virus in tomatoes reduced 76%. And the summary on AG is this. AG has been around for, like I said, since way before 2000, but in the U.S. since 2001. And the process, it came out of the high cash value crops. This was significant in melons, tomatoes, alfalfa, any high cash value crops, and they were doing multiple applications. So this product had proved itself in that application. But once the production farming industry started looking at foliars, this became one of the most economical and high producing foliars on that market. What makes it different? If you understand, when you look at products that are foliar sprayed, two things. One is that, are they just a nitrogen base? Is it just macros that they're feeding the plant? That's not what you totally need. The second thing is if there is a micro package, or cobalt, boron, magnesium, molybdenum, is it chelated? And if it is chelated, what's it chelated to? These are all good questions, because micros will not move through the cell wall of the plant by themselves, period. They won't do it. You have to have a carrier. What is the carrier? Amino acids. How are amino acids produced? Two ways. One, they're produced synthetically, and when they're produced synthetically, they are very large. So I'm binding my micros to very large amino acids, which have a very difficult time crossing through that cell wall. So your bioavailability is reduced to almost 50%. The second thing is that the other way is they're naturally produced amino acid. More difficult, more time consuming, and simply more cost, but those are very small. The amino acids are very small. We chelate to those amino acids. We move through the cell wall very freely, thus 100% bioavailability, and in less than 4 hours. We're in that plant in less than 4 hours, 100% of the product goes in it. So when you spend your dollar on this product, you know you're going to get results, and it goes faster than similar products. You're going to see it. But it's those antioxidants that's in that product is certainly very important. But AG just stands heads and tails above every other product in the marketplace, and it's usually one of the most least expensive foliars you can apply. It can be applied with a fungicide at the same time. So if you're going over your crops with a fungicide, you can put that right in your mix with it, usually without a problem. So you're doing a fungicide and a micro test at the point. 2.5 gallons on 30-gallon drums, and those are the way those products can come. So that kind of gives you an overall input cost, but I can share with you right now, these are some of the things that you're looking for. These are ROI sheets. You'll get these to take home with you. All right. We did it on corn with SD, 150 bushel corn on the average, a 3% increase. The return on investment for using SD was 1,456% return on investment and a 3% yield increase. Now, this is something you can take to your banker. Okay, that's just, and there's 5% yield increase and there's 7% yield increase on these papers. Soybeans, 40 bushel on the average soybeans with the SD, a 490% return on investment. With our chemicals, if we put $1 in, we'd like to see get $2 back. That's kind of the rule of thumb. Here, if I put $1 in, I could get $1,000 back. All right, and so This is the kind of stuff that you go to the bank with and say, this is why I want low input, high result. Low input, high result. And there's corn on here, and there's AG as well. So take these home and look at this, because you guys the industry needs right now this type of products. Low input, high result. And it's a great tool for the upcoming season for you guys to put this in play. And so, but to get back to the rep that invited you and talked with you, and have them and figure out how you're going to, you can get product and when you need to order it and those sort of things. That's very important. But we're excited about what we can help you do in your operation to put tools in your toolbox that really produce great return on investment. So